Today is the 9th day of Iyar, the 24th day of the Eimer, and the Tanya for today is the beginning of Perek Mem Vav, the beginning of chapter 46. It's on Daf Samach Hey Amud Aleph. The number at the bottom of the page is 242. Perek Mem Vav. V'yesh derech yashar lifnei ish. There is another way, a straight way, for a person shava l'chol nefesh, that is equally available to all people. The korev hadavar ma'id ma'id. And this way of serving God is not only very close, but it is twice very. Ma'id ma'id. To arouse and to shine forth the love that exists implanted and hidden in the heart, that it should illuminate with a strong light, like a flaming fire, in the revealed part of the heart and mind, to give himself away to God, with his body and his might, with his heart, soul, and might, from the depths of the heart, and in absolute truthfulness, and although this works at all times, but it is even more effective during the reading of the Shema and the brachas of the Shema, as we'll soon explain. So here the Rebbe is going to tell us a way in which we can arouse the love for God that will be in the revealed part of the heart, it will be from the depths of the heart, and as he says in the Shema, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. And it is not only close, it is very close. And not only very close, but very, very close. And not to special people, but shava l'chol nefesh, it is equally available to all people. And this is also derech yashar. In Perek Mem Hey, the Rebbe also introduced a way of arousing a kavanah, that the mitzvah should be lishma, and he called that way, he also described as yashar, a derech yashar, and that was to arouse compassion. To arouse compassion for God, rachmanus on the part of God that is in the soul, in the godly soul, and it gets brought down and dragged down and so on, and that rachmanus releases the love for God. Here, in Perek Mem Vav, the Rebbe says that there's another way, and this is for all people. It is a derech yashar, it's a straight way, and it's for all people. And it is not only very close, but very, very close. And what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain here is that until now, all the ways that the Alter Rebbe has described by which a person can come to love and fear God, all of it was very close to every Jew to do, because of the nature of the godly soul. Because there's a love for God in the neshama. And that love needs only to be revealed. It doesn't have to be created. You don't have to have that kind of intellect and that kind of understanding of godliness and of God to be able to create an original love, an original fear for God. You need only to arouse and to reveal that love that every Jew has by nature. And there are many levels to that love, but the fact is that it exists in every Jew by nature and needs only to be revealed. So through a hisbonenus, through a contemplation on one aspect of God's greatness or another, this love can be revealed. But this love that we have by nature, until now we've been talking about the nature of the godly soul. And since the godly soul is hidden within the animal soul, therefore the love is very hidden and very hard to get to, and it demands deep and intense concentration in order to reveal it. Here the Alter Rebbe is going to introduce a nature with which we are created that exists in the animal soul, by which we can have and experience a love for God from the depths of the heart. The whom, and what is this way? Kashiyosim elibe, when he will take to heart. Mashomer hakosuv, what it says in the pasuk. Kamayim haponim leponim, kein lev ha'adam el ha'adam. The pasuk in Mishlei, and it says that as water reflects the face back to the face, in the same way, the heart of one man is reflected back to the heart of another. Which in the simple meaning, since this is a pasuk in Mishlei, and Mishlei is basically a series of instructions in how a person can improve himself, therefore this pasuk also must be an instruction for self-improvement. So the meaning of it in the literal is that just as when you show your face to the water will reflect the face back, and it'll be the same face that you show. If it's a happy face will be reflected back. If it's a sour face will be reflected back. The same is true also one person to another. If a person shows you affection and kindness, then you are to reflect back to him also affection and kindness, and not to be ungrateful, and not to repay a favor with a evil, God forbid, but to repay a favor with a favor, to feel gratitude. The Alter Rebbe explains it somewhat differently, and therefore the Alter Rebbe says Pirush. Pirush, this means kemei shekidmus v'tzuras haponim sheha'odam mare b'mayim, just as the face and the appearance that the person shows to the water. Kein nira loisham b'mayim eisa tzura atzmo, exactly the same appearance, the same face will be reflected back to him from the water. Is kocha mamish lev ha'odam hane'emon bi'avos elishachir, in the exact same way, the heart of a person who has a devoted love, who is devoted in his love to another person. Harei ha'avazu, this love in the first person, it arouses a love within his friend, a reciprocal love, so that his friend loves him back, even though the friend doesn't know and hasn't seen the love of the first person to him. They love each other equally and are devoted in their love, even though the second person didn't know and doesn't know that the first person loved him first. In other words, when Reuven loves Shimon, then Shimon can't help and instinctively loves Reuven back, even though he doesn't know that Reuven already loves him. In other words, the Alter Rebbe is saying that this verse in Mishlei that says that just as water reflects the face, the heart reflects the heart, is not an instruction, but rather a statement of nature. The nature of things is such that when a heart reaches out, heart one reaches out to heart two, then heart two is moved to return the love. And the original love arouses a reciprocal love, a return love on the part of the second party. And this is instinctive, and it happens even if the second party does not know that the first party loves him. And befrat, and it is even more so, when party two sees that his friend loves him. When he sees the ava, then it makes it all the more intense that the return ava, the reciprocal love, must be equal to the original love. So although this is a pasuk in Mishlei, and the pasuk must have a lesson, a moral lesson, and here the Alter Rebbe is saying that it's not a statement of instruction, but rather a statement of fact. So the Rebbe Shlita explains that what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that there is a nature, and the pasuk is describing the nature, that the reciprocal love is instinctive and involuntary, and even unconscious. What then is the lesson from this nature? What are we to learn from this nature? Not that we are instructed to return the love when we are being loved. That we do by nature. That happens automatically. The instruction here is to love another person in the first place. That when you see that someone is distant and not close to you, and you want him to love you, then the instruction in Mishlei is love him first. Because the nature of things is that he will have to love you back if you love him. So the instruction here is not for party two to return the love. The instruction is for the first party to initiate the love. So this is true even if the second party doesn't know and doesn't see the love of the first party. And even more so when the second party does see the love of the first party. Now this nature of responding with a reciprocal love to love that is given and shown, this nature exists in every person. And therefore, as the Alter Rebbe began the Pedic, this way of loving God is equally accessible to all people. The other way, the way that demanded a certain contemplation in order to reveal the love of the godly soul, not every person is capable of contemplation. But here you don't need a contemplation. You're talking about a nature that exists in the animal soul, and therefore it is equally accessible to all people, even those who are not capable of deep concentration and contemplation. Now this nature exists in response to all people, any two people, one to the other, even if both of them, the two people, are equal in their status, peers. Yet, if one loves the other has to return the love by nature. The fact that sometimes we see that a person loves his friend, but the friend does not love him back, it's not because of a lack of this nature, but rather a person can't be in two places at the same time consciously. And therefore, if the second party is preoccupied and doesn't notice and is not aware, then it's possible that because of his preoccupation, he can't respond with the reciprocal love. But as soon as his attention is free, and he's not preoccupied with something that keeps him from that love, then the nature asserts itself, and he does instinctively love back. And this is true even of peers. Val achas kamo v'kamo, and it is even more so in melech godul v'zav, ma'le ahavose hagdola v'atzuma l'Ish Hedjit. If a person, if the two people are not equal at all, in fact, one is a king and the other is a commoner. So they're very different and very distant from each other. If the king should show a love to the simple person, to the commoner, it is understood how intense the return love would be on the part of the Hedjit, on the part of the commoner. Here the Alter Rebbe says that what if the king is not merely a king, a regular king, but Godel Vadav? He's a big king. He himself is great as an individual. He is exalted as an individual. Vazav, and he is a king over many countries and many people. Not just one country. And now he shows his love. Not only does he have the love, as we said before, that itself would also affect the second person, but he shows the love as well. And sometimes when you show a love, what you show is not the entire feeling, not the extent of what you feel on the inside. The Alter Rebbe says, Mare ahavose, he shows his love, hagdola v'hoatzuma, his great and profound love. He doesn't hold back in what he shows. He shows the entire love. And to whom does he show this? L'Ish Hedjit, to a simple commoner, but not the average commoner, but the nivze, ushval anoshim, umenuval hamutal be'ashpa. A person who is not only a commoner, but he is also lowly, and he wallows in the dirt, etc. So that the king is not a common king, but an extraordinary king, and the hedyot, the commoner, is not an average commoner, but a truly lowly person. And yet the king shows him his love and shows the entire love. How does he show his love? The king comes down to the lowly person from his place of honor, from the king's place of honor. And not only alone, but he comes in kol sarav yachdov, together with his entire retinue, with all of his ministers, which increases all the more the expression of affection and concern. And he raises him up, and he stands him up, from the filth, and he brings him not only to a clean place and to a good place, but to his place, to the place of the king, and not only to the outer chambers, but to the inner chamber. To that place in the palace, where no servant and no minister can enter, because there are places that a minister can go that a servant can't go. And then there are places where the servant, because he does the menial tasks, goes in there to do his job, where a minister would not be invited. Here, we're talking about a place that is so private to the king that neither the eved nor the sar, neither the servant nor the minister, ever goes there, and there he brings this lowly person. And there he joins this lowly person with a true oneness and closeness. The chibuk, the nishuk, and he embraces him and he kisses him. And as we said in the last Pedic, that nishuk means an attachment of breath to breath, a personal attachment, an inner attachment. And he does this with his heart and soul, so we can understand from all of these things, alachas kamo v'kamo, how much more so, that this must arouse a love double and quadruple. The lev hahedyet in the heart of the commoner, ushval anoshim, and the lowly person hazeh, el nefesh hamelech, to the king. The hiskashrus hanefesh mamesh, there would be a cleaving of the soul, literally, to the king, milev and nefesh miyumka deliba, from the spirit, from the soul, from the depth of the heart, le'ein ketz, endlessly and without restraint. And even if this lowly person has a stone heart, his heart is like a stone, and he never experiences any love or any affection for anybody or anything, even so, through this closeness and intimacy that the king shows him, hamos yimos, the heart will melt, hoyolamayim, and it will become like water, v'tishtapech nafshe kemayim, and then his soul will pour out like water, b'chleis hanefesh mamash, with a longing and an expiring of the soul, li'avas hamelech, out of love for the king. So here the Alter Rebbe introduces the nature with which God created us, and that is that when someone loves you, you can't not love him back, unless you are so preoccupied with something else that you simply don't have the capacity to respond to this love. But that's not because of a lack of ability or because of the ability to resist the love, but simply because a person can't be in two places at the same time, and the preoccupation puts you in a place other than the place in which your friend is, and therefore you are in separate places and you can't react. But barring this kind of distraction, this kind of preoccupation, if there is simply a presence of mind, not a contemplation, You don't have to contemplate the greatness of the other person and so on. You need only to be aware, to have presence of mind, and there will be an automatic and very profound reciprocal love to the one who initiates the love. And as the Alter Rebbe will go on to explain how all of this applies to the Jew in response to God. The Rebbe Shlita explains in a footnote that when the Alter Rebbe says that concerning this love, it is karev hadavar ma'ed ma'ed. So the Rebbe is saying here the Alter Rebbe is saying three things. It is close, more than close, it is very close, more than very close, it is very, very close. What are these three things? So the Rebbe explains it this way. The fact that this is a nature within the animal soul to reciprocate love for love, that makes it close. Because if it were only in the godly soul's nature, then it wouldn't be so close. Because not everybody can reach into the godly soul and reveal what is there. But here, it's in the nature of the animal soul, and therefore it takes no contemplation at all. It takes no great concentration. It is close. But even that would not be very close were it not for the fact that in the case of God and the Jew, the love is not only between two equals, as he says later, but rather it is between two beings that are so infinitely removed from each other, so separate from each other, that increases the response all the more. Because the difference between a king and a lowly person is a poor example for the distance between God and creation and human beings. So here, when God shows a love to the person, because they are so far apart, the response love, the return love, is much easier and much more readily available, and therefore it is very close. The third thing that makes it very, very close is that in the other levels of love that come from the godly soul, the fact that the person is lowly can be overcome with contemplation. In spite of the lowliness of the person, if he thinks long and hard about the greatness of God, so he can overcome this lowliness and reveal the love that exists in the godly soul. But here, this love is very, very close, because the fact that he is low isn't a contradiction at all to his loving God. On the contrary, the lower he is, the more intense the love is. So he doesn't even have to overcome his lowliness. He merely has to recognize it and appreciate the fact that in spite of his lowliness, God reaches out and brings him close and invites him into his palace and so on and so forth, as the Alter Rebbe will explain in the continuation of the Pedic. In the Hayom Yom for the 9th day of Iyar, the 24th day of the Eimer, the Rebbe writes that our master, our teacher, the Baal Shem Tov, said that everything that we see and everything that we hear in the course of our life is an instruction, is a sign from above on how we should conduct ourselves in our service of God. And this is the idea of Aveda, of service. What is our effort? What is our Aveda? To understand and to recognize in all things the sign and the instruction that it's giving us in which way we are to serve God.